Hello, families. Welcome to Fall Family Weekend at Western. I am Gigi Berardi, and I will be your guide. This is a welcome video to a remote learning cheese class. And this cheese class is actually online too. That is, it was approved as an online course way before COVID hit. But I did have to modify it for the last version, which I taught this summer. So welcome. Yes, Gigi Berardi here. I have been at Western for 25 years. I am celebrating my silver anniversary, if you will. Before then, I taught at 11 other colleges and universities, and that includes 23 summers at Cornell University, where I got 2 of my graduate degrees. Um, Also at Gettysburg College and Allegheny College, if you're familiar with Pennsylvania, University of Maryland, Hobart and William Smith College is in New York, and then in LA, I taught at 3 or 4 universities: Loyola Marymount, UCLA, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara. But I feel like I've saved the best for last. I've taught at another institution, 2 others in Washington State. Well, one in Washington State, that's the Evergreen State College. And then in Lummi Nation, that would be Northwest Indian College. And I feel like I have saved the best for last. Being at Western Washington University, I'm at Huxley College, the Department of Environmental Studies. I have been chair of my department for about half the time that I've been here on 2 separate occasions. So that's environmental studies in Huxley College. Now you'll have students who have interests and who anticipate majors in many different departments on campus. And that is wonderful that we have that variety and that we can offer that diversity of programs. Um, I should start by saying that I am a foodie. So I have studied and taught food all my life. I say that before I was a professor, I was a baby. So it feels like I've been at this for a long time. And even though it's been a long time, my most recent work is FoodWISE, a book I produced with North Atlantic Books that came out in January of this year, and it is distributed by Penguin Random House. So WISE is an acronym, W-I-S-E. The W is for whole. So it is an acronym for how to make choices around food in a world that is flooded with information and advice. W is for whole, whole foods, whole farms, whole people. I is for informed. Information is everything, especially information available from good science. S, sustainable. We want to choose sustainable food systems. And we need to keep in mind sustainable food budgets. Sustainable for us, sustainable for the planet. And last is E for experience. Experience is so important in terms of cultivating practical wisdom. And that is how we know how to do the right thing, make the right choices. And that only comes from gaining experience, doing so. So I talk about experience in the book and ways to get it and why it's important. And in particular, the experience of cooking, but not just cooking, shopping too. Shopping is even more important than cooking. It's where we really start to figure out what we want in food. All right, so that's FoodWISE. And I say that because I think that it is analogous, our choices around food, to our choices around so many other things. And the students are super inquisitive and eager and want information. It's just that so much of it is conflicting. All right. So I'm a guide. I offer a guide. That's the subtitle of the book, a guide to whole systems around sustainable and delicious food choices. Cheese is part of it. All right. So, so the cheese class is really interesting, and before I hope you'll agree. And it is an interdisciplinary class in that I teach the class with an ecotoxicologist, Ruth Sofield, and she teaches 2 credits that precede my 2 credits. So she does the science, although I'm familiar with the science of cheese making, and I do the art. And the art usually refers to the affinage or the aging of the cheese. So I thought I would show you a selection of my cheeses. I have sheep. I have sheep. I milk the sheep. And here is one of my little milk pails. And I make cheese. I make sheep cheese, fresh cheeses. So here is a beautiful paste, we call it, for a manchego, a sheep cheese. And you can see the lovely texture and the pretty continuous paste. This is just a couple of months old. So you're not making hard cheeses in the class. You're making soft cheeses or acid coagulated cheeses. These are coagulated with rennet. Um, Here is a wheel, beautiful wheel, about 3.5 pounds. Very nice consistency in the mold. So these hard cheeses are mold ripened. They're surface mold ripened, okay, from the outside in. So this is a couple of months old. I haven't cut into it yet. Another manchego. Then there is a more aged manchego, and it has a better developed rind, a more sophisticated developed rind in terms of the microbe profile, and the mold layer is quite impressive. But it took a lot to get to that point. Really, a big secret in aging is the temperature and humidity conditions under which you are doing the aging of the cheese. And I went to France, to Rouen, which is north of Lyon, um, and studied affinage with the Mons family there, and learned a lot, which I try and share with my students. And I have to say that this year in the cheese class, we did make a hard cheese, a jack cheese. And a student just this week sent me her pictures from the August cheese. And she aged the cheese in her refrigerator, which is way too dry. But I recommended trying it if they didn't have a wine cooler, and putting the cheese in a Ziploc bag and changing and putting moist towels in with the bag. And she did that, and she produced a gorgeous cheese with a beautiful mold rind without any fancy equipment. They didn't even have cheese presses. So I showed them how to press the cheese using cans of tomatoes, and they made beautiful cheeses. Um, all right. So the last cheese I have here, I have more, but is a beautiful Gouda. So here is a Gouda that I waxed with cheese wax, and this was the last cheese that I made. I have other cheeses, carefully, and Fontina, and an Alpine Tome, and Asiago, a pepper Asiago. And because of COVID, I did not teach my usual summer classes. And I was here all summer, so I was able to milk the sheep and get a lot of cheese. So those are examples of the hard cheeses that I make. I love cheese, and I think Saturday is actually raw milk cheese day. So a lot to celebrate there. Um, so let me just explain. In the canvas that you're uh, going to see, the public canvas, there's 4 guest lectures. So course fees this summer paid for these luminaries in cheese. One of them is Jessica Guigeot, who teaches at Fairhaven College, and she has a sheep dairy. Then another is Daniel Waverin and his partner Nydia Hernandez, who is a student of mine. And they have Ferndale Farmstead. They have 600 cows, the family farm, and they are using sometimes up to a third of the milk to make cheese. They're making very popular Italian cheeses, so you can listen to him. Then there's Lindsey Slevin. Lindsey Slevin owns Twin Sisters Creamery. She uses Twin Brook milk. Twin Brook milk is a low temperature vat pasteurized milk from Jersey's that is utterly delicious. And they maintain that quality by feeding the cattle only um, some hay, and the cows are on pasture, and they use glass bottles. And so what Lindsay does at Twin Sisters is she goes and she gets the milk right from the bulk tank, so it's raw. So she specializes in raw milk cheeses, and she is definitely a fixture in Whatcom County. Last, we have Mother Noella Marcellino. She is the cheese nun. She was written about in an article in the New Yorker called Raw Faith. And she was referred to as the cheese nun in a very famous video now from French television. And Michael Pollan refers to her as the cheese nun too, and she is featured in Cooked, if you're familiar with Michael Pollan's work. So she is doing the milk fermentation, the cheese, and Michael Pollan came to the Abbey of Regina Laudis. If there are any grandparents, perhaps, among you who watch TV, you might remember a movie maybe in the 1950s called Come to the Stable. And it featured Loretta Young, I think, and Celeste Holm. And it was about 2 nuns who had come from France to start an abbey. That actually is a true story. And Mother Noella was at that abbey. And she took up a battle on wooden paddles and wooden vats for milk. And she has a PhD. Her specialty is cheese microbiology and the ecology of microbes. So she had a Fulbright in France, and she did a lot of research looking at the ecology of the microorganisms in the caves, and how it's so important to preserve the caves because there's so much diversity in the microbes that are used to acidify milk. That's really their main purpose, to acidify the milk. And then at that point, rennet is added, or some other acid is added to it, and we get cheese. So you'll hear about this, and you'll see it a little bit in the videos if you have a chance to see those guest lectures. So they were 4 guest lectures I brought in for this summer, and they're in there. And then the other thing to note is Padlet. So once you make your cheeses, You want to post pictures, you want to ask questions, and I will be monitoring the Padlet discussions, and you will be sent links to those Padlet discussions. The cheeses you're making are ricotta, and that means recooked, and it's recooked milk or it's recooked whey. When I make ricotta, I just reheat my whey, but you've got a recipe for that. And then I make dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of real cheesecakes. Cheesecake was never meant to be made with cream cheese. It was meant to be made with ricotta. So you can make that, um, and then make manicotti or lasagna or your cheesecakes. And then there's a mascarpone, which is a very thick, delicious cheese used for desserts. Um, and then paneer. And I think in the Padlet, I put a picture not of paneer, but of feta, which is very similar to it. So I hope you enjoy the canvas. And in the next video, I'm going to explain the actual canvas a little bit, what is happening with remote learning. Some places to get more information are my blogs. So in lockdown, I've been vlogging and I have a food and resilience channel, Gigi Berardi, food and resilience. And I think I'm up to 205 videos. So I've made one every night. I'm going to make one tonight after I finish recording this. And oftentimes I am riffing about the university and how to protect students. And anyway, you can search the titles there. Sometimes I'm talking about cheese, but usually I read a paragraph from the book, from FoodWISE, and then talk about a top news stories for the day. So you can keep in touch that way. I'm going to be live answering questions for the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. I think about midday. I'm sure it's on the schedule. I teach eco-gastronomy. If your students are interested in food, this is a wonderful 2-credit class with an additional discussion section. That's in winter. Agroecology is in spring. It's hard to get into. It's a senior capstone, but most of the freshmen will take the class in the summer, most of the first year students, and I offer it in the summer. And also in the summer, not this summer, also in this summer, I teach global learning programs in Switzerland, Italy, and then a service learning program in Mexico. So those faculty-led programs will start again, hopefully, in 2022. And at any rate, your students know where to find me. The question is, do you know where to find me? So this weekend, live Saturday, Sunday in Canvas, you're meant to just poke around Canvas, but feel free to look at the videos, the guest lectures too, and then post on Padlet. All right. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be working with you as part of Fall Family Weekend.